I came out the womb competitive, and I haven't changed. I don't like to lose, and anyone who knows me knows that. It's not something I try to hide or something that I try to dress up as something a little bit more palatable. I love to win. I always have. And that love for winning is what pushes me to do the work that makes losing less likely. And that's in anything. That's in everything. That's at any level that I find myself competing. There's a healthy version of that, and there's an unhealthy version of that. The healthy version competes against past versions of itself, right? Wakes up and asks, am I better today than I was yesterday? Am I sharper, more prepared, more capable than I was last week or last month or last year? That version of competitiveness is a gift. It's the little oomph that keeps pushing you forward when comfort would have you stop. The unhealthy version will go to any breaking point, whether physical, psychological, or even relational, to avoid losing. That version will burn everything to the ground before it accepts defeat. And I've been both, and most competitive people have. Kobe Bryant was both too. And what made him one of the greatest players to ever play the game wasn't just that he was competitive. It wasn't just that this competitive fire burned hot in him. It's that he understood what to point it at. This is episode 5 of the Mamba Mentality series, and this one is about competitiveness, what it is, what it costs, and what it builds when you get it right. A shoot-around is a light practice the morning of a game. It's low intensity. You walk through plays, you go over assignments, and you get loose. Nobody goes hard, and that's the point of those. Kobe didn't get that memo. He was going full speed at Eddie Jones, one of the veterans on the team, like it was game 7. The coaches were laughing, his teammates were laughing, and everyone in the gym thought it was the funniest thing. Kobe was the only one not laughing. Coach Del Harris finally had to stop practice and tell him, hey, we're not going 100% yet. Nick Van Exel told that story years later, and what stuck with him wasn't the intensity. It was the fact that Kobe genuinely didn't understand why everyone else wasn't competing at the same level. That's it right there. That's the thing about people who are wired this way. It's not a switch that you flip for big moments. It's how they operate. The shoot-around is as real as the finals. The conversation that doesn't matter to anyone else matters to them. The moment everyone else decides to coast, that's exactly when they decide they won't. In 2000, Phil Jackson brought Michael Jordan to a Lakers practice just to visit. Jordan wanted to see his old coach, and Kobe walked right up to him. And the first thing out of his mouth was, did you bring your shoes? It wasn't hello. It wasn't, it's an honor. It was, did you bring your shoes? His first thought when standing in front of one of the greatest players who ever lived, and arguably the best player who ever lived, was, where do I stack up? I want to know where I stack up compared to him right now. Jordan later said that Kobe used to call him at 2 or 3 in the morning asking about post moves and footwork. And at first it annoyed him. Then he understood what was actually happening. It wasn't just some fan calling his idol. It was a competitor studying the person who had set the standard he was chasing. And so he was pulling out every piece of information available until there was nothing left to learn. And the only thing that was left to do was test himself against it. Jordan also said that the only person he thought might beat him in a one-on-one was Kobe, because Kobe had stolen all of his moves, apparently. In 2014, BJ Armstrong went to dinner with Kobe and Jordan. He didn't say a word the whole night. He just watched. What he witnessed was the two of them playing a mental game of one-on-one at the table, going through every scenario. If I catch the ball on the left wing with a live dribble, how do you defend me? What if I go to the Hakeem footwork? What's your counter if I drive right? Back and forth for hours. Neither one of them was conceding. Neither one of them would acknowledge a loss. Armstrong said it was one of the most beautiful things he had ever seen. There was no court. There was no crowd. There was nothing at stake except just the pleasure of competing. And they couldn't turn it off. In fact, they didn't want to. For both of them, the game never stopped. It just moved to wherever it was that they were. That's what happens when competition becomes an identity and not just a behavior. It doesn't just wait for the right moment. It shows up at dinner or at a shoot-around or at 3 a.m. when you could be and probably should be sleeping. I said at the top that there's a healthy version of this and an unhealthy version of this, and I meant it. Kobe was honest about this too. His competitiveness did cost him things. Relationships with teammates were complicated. His relationship with Shaq was rocky at times, partly because of it. Younger players were intimidated. Some people just could not handle the standard that he held, and they left or pulled back. That's the cost of operating this way, and pretending it doesn't cost does a disservice to anyone who recognizes themselves in this. The healthiest version of competitiveness, the version worth building, is the one that competes against a standard rather than against people. Kobe, at his best, wasn't trying to embarrass his teammates at practice. He was just holding a standard and refusing to drop it. And the contrast made everyone else either rise or leave. Byron Scott said it this way: anytime Kobe practiced, the whole gym went to another level. Not because Kobe was trying to inspire anyone, because when someone operates at full commitment in a room full of people operating at half, the half feels uncomfortable. And the discomfort is either the thing that makes you better or the thing that sends you somewhere safer. Both are choices, and both have consequences. I want you to think about the last week you just had. Where did you compete at full capacity? Where did you coast? And be honest, because we all have both. The moments we showed up completely and the moments we decided this particular thing maybe doesn't quite require it. Whether it's the shoot around, the meeting that maybe seemed low stakes, the conversation that you half showed up for, the work you did when nobody else was watching and nothing was being graded, it would have been completely reasonable to do less. That's where this lives. That's where the standard is either held or let go. Kobe walked up to Jordan and asked him if he brought his shoes. That impulse, the one that says, even this, even now, even here, I want to know where I stand. That's not something he decided to have that day. It was built over years of refusing to let the low stakes moments be an exception to who he was. The standard that you hold in private is the performance you deliver in public every single time. So here's the question I want to leave you with. What does your standard look like when nobody's watching? Because that version of you, the one in the shoot around, the one at 3 a.m., the one in the room when nobody else would notice if you coasted, that's the real one. That's the one that shows up when it matters. Most people compete when they have to. The best ones can't stop. And I think the real reason, is that they've stopped thinking about competition as something that happens against other people and started thinking about it as something that happens against the person they were yesterday. That oomph, that push, that refusal to let today be smaller than it could be. Kobe at a shoot around was going hard while everyone else laughed. Kobe at the dinner table playing one-on-one in his mind. Kobe calling Jordan at 3 a.m. not because he was starstruck, but because there was something left to learn, and he wasn't going to sleep until he had it. That's not obsession. That's a person who decided that every moment was worth showing up for completely. You get to decide that too. Which version of you shows up to the shoot around? Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next one.